Shimsy, take one, presentation one. Hiya!
Hi Linda, nice to meet you. I'm David.
Nice to meet you.
Just before we get started, this is the benefit of getting together with me today. My card's on the front, you can contact me anytime. And then the scratch off there, you can scratch that off and we'll see what you won. But I do want to thank you very much for getting together with me today. Appreciate you taking your time. I don't know that I'm going to be able to help you, but what we're going to do is just going to go through some of the things that we work with. Increasing your cash flow, decreasing your debt, eliminating your debt maybe, and decreasing taxes. And then look into some of the things that we do as far as working with annuities and life insurance. And once I go through everything, if there's something that you're interested in, then we can talk more about that in specifics.
Okay.
As far as today goes though, nothing to purchase from me, no money that you're going to have to give to me, so really I just like you to sit back and listen, because that's the biggest thing.
Okay.
Alright? So the company that I represent is Federal Financial Group. It's a group of financial institutions and insurance companies that have been, a lot of them have been in business for over 100 years, and they have well over $20 billion in assets. So very well versed and well backed. So getting into it, the biggest mission, or what we do, our company does, is teach you how to take your money and how to make it work for you. The biggest thing and how we stay our mission is helping our clients and Americans become financially independent. I'm just going to move this over so you can kind of look at it a little bit with me. Now, as far as financial independence goes, what does that mean to you?
Not being restrained by money.
And I'd say most people say that way.
Okay.
And I agree with you 100%. As far as our company goes, we view financial independence as having our money work for us in such a way that we don't really have to work. So really our money's outperforming us, right? So technically if we're able to achieve our financial independence, we really don't have to work anymore. We can if we want to, and then that's just icing on the cake, but we don't have to.
Sounds good
Right?
to me.
Yeah, I agree. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to go through this, and we're just going to talk about some things that might help us achieve financial independence. First thing we'll talk about, kind of some of the problems that we have facing our nation today, and then I use that to kind of set the foundation to then go into our solutions. Okay? So some of the problems, and I'm kind of generalizing, quick overview, so bear with me, but when we look back at our economy, let's just say 10 years, incomes have increased, right? You'd agree? More or less?
More or less.
Okay. Now, with that increase, though, would you agree that the costs of living have gone up as well?
Yes.
Now, do you think that incomes are increasing enough to cover costs of living?
No.
I would agree with that. I think the average, I can't even speak to what the average income increase is, but I think inflation has gone up 3%, and I know that we're not saving 3% in savings accounts and bank accounts. So, thinking about that, one of the big things that, the biggest problem is if you look at retirement, if people are not making enough to be able to retire, then really we're not ever achieving that financial independence. So, the statistic I read is if there was 100 people turning 65 today and they were going to retire, out of those 100 people, how many people do you think would be financially independent? How many people would maybe make $35,000, at least $35,000 a year in the retirement and be comfortable?
Probably less than 50%.
Way less, actually. So
Okay.
four of those 100
40%?
people. No, 4 people. So 4%.
4%. Wow. Okay.
So they would be, the people that. And when we talk about retirement, let me clarify a little bit.
Okay.
And it helped me. I actually read this in a book. Retirement isn't necessarily that looming day when you hit something. I'm done working. Retirement for me, and I think for most people, is that day, and it's different for everybody, but it's the day that you achieve that independence to actually kind of chase your passions. So like for me, I love what I do. When I hit the day that I consider myself retired, am I going to stop what I'm doing? Probably not, because I love it. But at that point, I might not do it as much because I might go volunteer or do something I love to do, and that's what retirement is.
Okay.
So now these 4 people, they have the amount of money that they can sit back and do whatever they want to do, really. They can chase their passions, they can spend time with their family, whatever that may be. Now the other 96, those folks have to earn an income. They have to survive still, right? And that's stressful, and that's what we look forward to kind of setting aside, is that stress. So those people are A, living off of charity, right? B, possibly living off of family members, or what else?
Working?
Working, right? They're working. I mean, we see them all the time, people that are working. And honestly, I have, at my office, I've got a lady, she is 62 years old, wonderful lady, love her to death, but she's not retiring anytime soon. She's not able to let go of that stress. She's not able to go home at the end of the day and chase her passions. She talks about it. She does it on the weekends, which is fantastic. But then Monday through Friday, she's coming into the office. And I think I like to think she likes working for me. You know, she loves being there. But would she if she didn't have to? Probably not.
Yeah.
And I don't think that when she was my age, or I don't think me at my age, is saying, when I'm 60, I want to make sure I can keep having to work.
Right.
Right? So, that being said, that's the problem. That's what we're here to, I guess that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I help people set themselves up to have a plan so that sometime down the road they can actually let go of that I need an income and, you know, be able to do what they want to do. So here are some of the things, 7 steps that we're going to go through. I'm going to go through these quickly. But what we do with these 7 steps, and they're inspect what you expect, increase cash flow, eliminate debt, develop an emergency fund, protect what you have, build long-term financial independence, and then estate planning. I would assume you've heard about all this before. It's probably going to be a recap, but maybe I'll teach you a little something. But what I would ask from you is just take maybe 1 or 2 of these things and keep in mind what you think, if you had to pick only 2, you would really like to chase after.
Okay.
Okay? But what our company does is we take all these 7 steps. With our clients, we figure out which ones of these 7 steps work the best for them. We interlock them together so they're all working for you at once to help you achieve your goals.
Okay.
Okay? All right, here we go. Sit back, relax. Step 1, track earnings and expenditures. So that's the inspecting what you expect. You might already do that. But what this is using tools, online tools mainly, because that's the quickest way to keep track of our money. And keep track of what's coming in and what's going out, right? Because if we don't do that, then we really don't know, and we're not really being active toward achieving our goals. An example that I'll just give you this before I move on is that, let's say you've got a lot of money in a savings account, and I don't know that about you yet, but if you do, you should know how much is coming in, how much you have to make go out, what percentage interest rate it's growing at, and where you want it to go, right? I mean, those are easy to answer questions, but how many people really know that?
Probably not many.
Probably not many. But if you have an expectation, then you should be able to inspect that,
Okay.
right? Okay. Step number 2, increasing cash flow. What would you define cash flow as?
The amount of money that you make.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So the way we look at it is it's the amount of money we make, so money coming in, and then obviously that money has to go out, you know, bills here, mortgage, gas, whatever. So at the end of the month, I'm left with that $3 overage. That's my cash flow.
Oh, okay,
Just
sure.
an example, hopefully more than $3, but you know, it is what it is. So some things that we do to increase cash flow and that we work with is really taking a look at all your debts, look at your whole financial picture, and find ways to decrease the amount of money that you're paying unnecessarily into debts.
Okay.
And I know that might seem a little broad right now, and we'll get to that a little bit later as far as specifics go. But then the other thing is, at the end of the year, you pay taxes all year long, taxes. At the end of the year, do you normally get a tax return?
Yes.
You do, okay. Well, let's just assume, because I don't know how much you get. Well, how much did you get?
4,000.
Okay, so $4,000. That's great. You know, at the end of the year, you get a $4,000 boost. Either that goes into a savings, an IRA, or you purchase a new car, whatever you need, right? But here's the downside of that. A lot of people don't think about it. That $4,000 is going into the government, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where if you kept that $4,000, even though let's even say you had to pay that to the government, but let's say you take that $4,000, put it into account, gain the interest, then at the end of the year you take that $4,000, give it to the government, but you get the interest. But instead, the government's holding on to your money, and it's your money because they're giving it back to you, and you're not
Right.
making anything off of it. You're just getting that $4,000. So that's another strategy that we'll take, is that we take a look at where you could put that money before the government gets their hands on it, so that you keep it and gain the interest on it.
Like a money market account or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah,
that makes
absolutely.
sense.
A lot of people just don't even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the debt eliminator. Now this is a pretty important one because everybody's got debt. And I assume you have mortgage,
Yes.
car loan,
No.
no car loan, credit cards?
Yes.
Okay. So take a look at this for what it's worth. We're going to look at this case study here. So average family, they've got a mortgage, an auto loan, credit card, and a store card. Okay. All in all, not so bad debt, but really they're set to pay this off in 26.8 years. That's what they have left on their mortgage. So let's just assume they're paying all that stuff off at the same amount. 26.8 years, they're going to be out of debt.
Okay.
Okay, and I think we're looking at about an average 8% rate of return. So obviously this is all just for examples purposes.
Absolutely.
Now with our debt management tool, what this does is it takes a look at all your debt and prioritizes what you should pay down first based on interest rate, and then how much you could pay off to meet goals if you want to meet goals. Okay. So again, look at their plan was paid off in 26.8 years. Well, now with the debt eliminator, it's going to get them out of debt just by managing their interest in 13.1 years.
Wow.
So you can imagine how much you're going to save in interest, almost cutting that in half. So now the other thing we can look at doing is making that same monthly payment for the 13.1 years, but then continue on for the rest of the 26 years. So you're paying into it, and all of a sudden it becomes a savings account, right?
Okay, so like an investment kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you pay your debt off in 13.1, and then you continue paying the same amount of payments to make an investment. You're saving almost $500,000. So instead of climbing out of debt for 26.8 years, in 26.8 years you're climbing out of debt and then kind of building yourself a pretty decent nest egg.
Yeah.
So that's something else that we can talk about a little bit later, but just kind of, like I said, just kind of spiking your interest a little bit. All right, step number 4, develop an emergency fund. Again, I'm sure you've heard about this, but I'll ask you, and honestly, do you have an emergency fund?
Yes, we do.
And is it separate from checking
Yes.
savings? Has to be, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So obviously we have to have an emergency fund, and the 4 rules are: has to be in a place that's safe, so some kind of institution, not under the mattress. Has to have a better interest rate return than a checking account because you want to build money.
Yep.
Be completely liquid. You want to be able to access it. You want to be able to use it in the event of an emergency. That's why it's there. And it has to be separate from the checking and the savings. And you've already figured that out
Right.
because most
Otherwise,
people,
it just.
yeah,
gone.
because they use it. Why wouldn't
Mhm.
they? And this is important, and you're already there, so that's great. But important to keep because you never want a $100 purchase to cost you $300 type of thing. So that's important. I'm glad to hear you have one. Most people that I sit down with do not have an emergency fund. All right, step number 5. I've been in the insurance business for a little while, and this is probably one of the more important steps that people need to follow. And a lot of people don't have this in place, and it's simple, but it's protecting what you have. So, and let's just look at you. You are probably your family's, you're half of the contribution to your family's well-being, right?
Yeah.
So and this is hard to hear, but if you didn't go home today, would your family be able to continue the same standard of living that they have been?
Yes, they would.
Because you have life insurance, right?
Yes.
Perfect answer. Again, same thing as the emergency fund. I sound with so many people that don't have life insurance in place at all, and that's frustrating for me because it just seems like it's not educated.
Right.
And I don't even feel like I was as well educated prior to getting into this profession. So it's nice to sound with somebody that actually has it. And the other big thing with that type of thing is it's not exactly that you have it, but that you have enough. And would you say you have enough?
Based on our debt, we do have enough.
Perfect. That's a great answer. If that's ever something that you do want to sit down and talk about, if you ever have a question on it or you want to recalculate all that,
Mhm.
that's something I can do.
Excellent.
So keep that in mind, but that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that you have it. Okay, next step number 6. This one is by far, let's see, how do I best say this? Because I get a little excited about it. I've been in insurance for a little while, okay?
Okay.
And just until recently, I just learned this myself. And I have never heard of a better way to become financially independent than step number 6.
Okay.
Okay? So I really want you to listen to it. I'll probably slow down a little bit for you on this one. I know we've been going kind of fast. This one we're going to take a little bit slower. Pay attention, and if you have any questions, we'll answer while we go through here.
Okay.
But this is the one to build long-term financial independence. Okay?
All right.
All right. So, biggest things with building long-term financial independence is that there's two battles that we have to face and that we have to win. We've been talking about a little bit, you know, in these other steps, and the stuff that we've talked about beforehand kind of sets the foundation, but this guy kind of carries us home. Okay. Now, two things we've been talking about, but we've been skimming over the top. But we're going to hit it hard a little bit here. First is inflation. Okay. Things are costing more, you know, and we got to stay ahead of that. The next one is the tax burden. And taxes, you know, bottom line up front is we're making what we make, but do we really get to keep it all?
No.
And we want to be able to control more of what we keep, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So here's the thing we're going to talk about first. We're going to look at inflation. Have you ever heard of the Rule of 72?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Rule of 72, it was developed by Albert Einstein. That could be a myth, whether it's true or not, I really don't know. But
Okay.
the Rule of 72 holds true. Now what this is if you have a given interest rate and you divide that by 72, it's going to give you the amount of years that it's going to take for money to double at that interest rate.
Okay.
So clearly stated, just to sometimes I confuse myself. Let's say we have 4%. Okay, so interest rate of 4%. I'm just writing this down because it helps me think straight. Now, if we have 4% and we divide that by 72, I haven't done long division in a long time, but either way, it comes out to 18 years. That looks right. So 4%, 72, 18 years. So that means money's going to double in 18 years at a 4% return. So if you put $100 away today, in 18 years, it's going to be how much?
200.
Perfect. So another 18 years, it's going to be how much?
400.
400. All right, we are 36 years down the road. Do you think that if you went to the grocery store, you could buy groceries, you could buy $100 of groceries for $400 in 36 years?
I don't know.
I don't either. I always ask that. I don't really know. There's a good chance probably not, you know, or it might be close. But this is kind of looking at inflation, right? So now if we take a look at inflation, obviously we can't change the amount of money and we can't change time. So the one thing that we can change is interest rate, right?
If
So,
we could, yeah, that would be.
if we look at interest rate, let's say we go from 4%, and I'll use $10,000 as an example. So let's say you invest $10,000. We'll look back at that 4%, and you can look at this with me. It's kind of staggering. Sometimes I cover it up, sometimes I don't. That's fine. Just act surprised when we get to the end because it's amazing. So 4%, right? We invested $10,000. 29-year-old invests $20,000, wants to retire at age 65. So 36 years down the road, we've accumulated $40,000. So you're retiring at $40,000.
Not impressive.
No, I mean, how long is that going to last you?
About a year.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be good for that year, but you'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
So now we go up 2%. Okay, so 6% rate of return. Same thing, $10,000. By the time we get to age 65, because if you look at it now, we're doubling at 12 years. So the amount of years the double's gone down. We actually have 80,000, so we've doubled our money.
But at only 2%.
2% difference. Kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
So now, obviously there's 8%, okay? Now we're doubling every 9 years. Same amount of money, same amount of time, but we've got $160,000 in the bank. You kind of see the trend here?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're just jumping to 12%. Now 12% is a lot higher than that 4%. Okay, so 9-year-old still investing the same amount of money. He just found a better home for it. It's sitting for the exact same amount of time. The difference is it's doubling at every 6 years. He's got $640,000 upon retirement, all because he found a good home for his money at 12%. Now, would you say that tackles the inflation problem?
Much more effectively than the 4%.
Agreed. This guy made a $600,000 mistake putting his money in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I know, and I thought the same thing. The question there is where in the world can you find 12%? Right?
That is the big question.
Right. So 3 places normally we can really put our money, right? The first is